There is a science older than time, a technology woven into the bones of ancient temples, encoded in sacred texts, carved into stone long before science had a name. This isn't myth, this isn't religion. This is precision, a system so advanced it blurred the line between physics and spirit, but somewhere along the way it was buried, suppressed, discredited, hidden in plain sight. You see, the ancients didn't guess how the universe worked. They knew. They didn't need machines to measure frequency or field. They felt it. They built structures aligned with planetary orbits, designed pyramids that matched the geometry of light, etched patterns that mirrored subatomic behavior thousands of years before particle physics even existed. And then, it vanished. Not by accident, not by decay, but by design. Because knowledge is power, and power, in the wrong hands, becomes control. So this science, what we now call sacred geometry, vibrational medicine, alchemical transmutation, was labeled fantasy, brushed off as superstition. The deeper layers were locked away in symbols, hidden in myths, reserved for secret societies, or burned outright in the name of progress. But it never disappeared. It waited. And now, it's re-emerging. Not as dogma, but as memory. Because something inside you already knows it's real. You've seen the patterns in dreams, felt the pull toward ancient symbols you couldn't explain, stood in places that made your body vibrate, even if you didn't know why. That's not nostalgia, that's recognition. Long before modern science had words for energy, frequency, or magnetism, the ancients were already working with it. They didn't need particle accelerators. They had sound, vibration, intention. They understood that everything, every object, every organism, every thought was a waveform. And they knew how to tune it. Look at ancient Egypt. The pyramids weren't just tombs, they were resonance chambers. Their internal geometry, angles, materials, and positioning weren't arbitrary. They were engineered to concentrate and direct subtle energy, frequencies that could be felt, measured, even used, not metaphorically, literally. Or take Vedic India. The sages of the Upanishads didn't guess about the universe. They spoke of atoms, of cosmic cycles, of vibration creating matter, long before Western science ever dreamed of quantum fields. Their chants weren't just ritual, they were vibrational codes. Mantras designed to align body and mind with the underlying structure of reality. It was science, just in a different language. And across the globe, the same truth echoed. In Mayan temples, Tibetan mandalas, Native American medicine wheels, Sufi cosmology, Druidic glyphs, all pointing toward one unified message. Reality is not solid, it's structured by energy. And that energy can be shaped by thought, intention, and sound. But here's the twist. The deeper this knowledge went, the more it became dangerous. Not to the people, but to the systems of control. Because if you understood how reality actually worked, you couldn't be manipulated by fear. You couldn't be controlled by false authority. You became sovereign. So the knowledge was fractured. Mystics were silenced. Structures were repurposed. Sacred texts were rewritten or destroyed. And the deeper science of consciousness was pushed underground, but not lost. Because it never lived in books. It lived in the body. Your body is not a biological accident. It's an instrument built to receive, transmit, and modulate frequency. Every cell, every organ, every strand of DNA is a tuned oscillator. The ancients knew this. That's why their healing systems weren't based on chemicals, but on vibration. They didn't need pills. They used sound, light, breath, intention. In Chinese medicine, meridians were mapped as energy pathways long before the nervous system was charted. In Ayurveda, the chakras were not symbolic. They were energetic hubs that governed physical, emotional, and spiritual coherence. In Egypt, the Ka and Ba described dual fields of the human soul, not religion, mechanics. The body was understood as a bridge, a portal between the material and the immaterial, the physical and the quantum, the seen and the unseen, and that bridge could be calibrated. The pineal gland, not just an endocrine organ, it was revered as the seat of perception, the antenna, the gateway. Cultures across continents depicted it in art, architecture, and ritual, knowing that when activated, it allowed access to layers of reality normally hidden behind the veil. This wasn't mystical wishful thinking. It was applied awareness. The breath was a frequency dial. The voice was a tuning fork. Thought was voltage. And emotion? Emotion was the carrier, wave amplifying or distorting the entire signal depending on its coherence. This is the ancient science they buried, because if you knew you were a living transmitter, capable of interfacing with the field, why would you ever need a middleman? Why would you follow blind authority when your body was a temple? Why would you outsource your healing when your breath could unlock it? Why would you fear death when you could feel your own eternal signal? These questions weren't abstract, they were disruptive, and that's why the science was hidden. Not because it didn't work, but because it did. And yet, despite centuries of suppression, this knowledge refused to die. It simply went underground, preserved in mystery schools, secret societies, and encoded into the rituals of those who refused to forget. Alchemy, for example, wasn't just about turning lead into gold. That was the cover story. The real alchemy was about transmuting the self. It was a map of spiritual evolution describing the process of purifying consciousness, raising vibration, and reuniting with the higher intelligence from which we were projected. Solvet coagula wasn't chemistry. It was a command: dissolve what is false and reform what is real. But if you wanted to understand these teachings, you had to read between the lines. Because the truths were wrapped in symbol, hidden in paradox, protected by layers of metaphor to avoid persecution, you had to feel them more than understand them. And now, in this age of accelerating awakening, the veil is lifting, the symbols are activating, and the science is returning not through old institutions, but through you. You are remembering. Have you noticed it? The pull toward forgotten knowledge. The sense that ancient sites hold more than just stone. The feeling that geometry, color, and sound carry more than aesthetic, they carry codes. That's not nostalgia, that's reactivation. Because encoded deep in your DNA are layers of dormant awareness, fragments of memory from when you knew how this reality worked. From when you used your voice to shift space, your thought to influence matter, your presence to bend probability, and those memories are waking up. They're showing up in dreams, in synchronicities, in sudden waves of emotion you can't explain. They're rising through your nervous system, through your heart, through your skin. This isn't fiction, this is resonance. If something ancient inside you is stirring, subscribe and turn on the bell. You're not just remembering, you're reconnecting with who you've always been. Science, in its purest form, was never meant to be cold or disconnected. It was meant to bridge the divine and the material. That's what ancient civilizations understood before it was stripped, sterilized, and severed from its spiritual roots. They didn't separate the study of the stars from the soul. They didn't divide matter from meaning. They merged them. The Temple of Dendera wasn't just a place of worship, it was a cosmic map. The flower of life etched in Abydos wasn't decorative. It was a diagram of universal creation. The Fibonacci spiral found in seashells, hurricanes, and galaxies wasn't coincidence. It was proof of a unifying pattern embedded in everything. These weren't superstitions, they were technologies. Only now is modern science beginning to rediscover what the ancients already mastered: that matter is not static, that consciousness affects particles, that the observer influences the observed. Quantum physics is catching up, but calling it new is a mistake. It's not new, it's remembered. Because when you really understand vibration, when you realize that every emotion, thought, and sound is a frequency, you begin to see that ancient temples were not just buildings, they were instruments. Resonance chambers, places built to tune the human field, places where initiates didn't go to pray, but to activate. And what they activated was the blueprint, the original code hidden beneath conditioning. The part of you that already knows how to heal, how to align, how to interface with the cosmos without needing a device or permission. This is the knowledge that was buried not to protect you, but to disempower you. Because a person who knows how reality actually works cannot be ruled. They cannot be broken. They cannot be programmed into fear. And that kind of awareness is contagious. The greatest secret isn't just that this ancient science existed, it's that it still works. You don't need to travel to a temple to activate it. You don't need to belong to a mystery school to access it. The codes are already in you, in your breath, in your voice, in the geometry of your body and the rhythm of your heart. But you must remember how to use them. Start with vibration, not metaphorically, literally. Every word you speak carries frequency. Every thought you think emits a field. Every emotion you feel shapes that field, amplifying it, distorting it, or tuning it into clarity. So when you speak with fear, you're broadcasting instability. When you think in lack, you create resonance with limitation. But when you speak with presence, when your thoughts are clear, when your emotions are integrated, you begin to broadcast a signal the field can't ignore. This is how manifestation actually works. Not by wishing, not by forcing, but by aligning your field with the blueprint that already exists in higher dimensions. Because everything you desire, every version of you that's more whole, more free, more awake already exists. That version isn't far away. It's just vibrating at a frequency you've forgotten how to access. But the ancient science teaches how to re-access it, through geometry, through breath, through stillness, through sound, through awareness. It's not about adding anything. It's about removing interference. And interference comes in the form of fear, distraction, over-identification with form. The deeper you believe you are just the physical self, the more static clouds your signal. But the moment you remember you are energy shaped by intention, the whole game changes. Because the field doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you are. And here's the most radical part: this ancient science isn't just about personal awakening, it's collective, it's planetary. Because the same principles that govern your inner field also govern the outer world. The same sacred patterns in your DNA exist in the spiral of galaxies. The same energetic resonance that aligns your body also aligns ecosystems, weather patterns, and even the evolution of consciousness itself. This is why ancient builders aligned their monuments with solstices, lunar cycles, and constellations. It wasn't for decoration. It was a recognition. Earth is a living circuit, and humanity is one of its most powerful conductors. But when we fall out of sync, when we ignore the cycles, poison the land, deny the body's intelligence, we don't just create physical imbalance, we create energetic distortion. And that distortion ripples across the grid, affecting more than we can see. This is the part they never wanted us to know. Because if you realized how much influence your coherence has on the world, if you understood that your healed state literally recalibrates the field around you, then you wouldn't feel small. You wouldn't feel helpless. You'd feel responsible. And responsibility is the beginning of power. That's why the ancient teachings weren't only personal, they were communal. They trained initiates not just to awaken, but to stabilize frequency for the whole, to become living nodes of clarity, conscious transmitters of balance. And that's what the world needs now. Not more noise, not more data. It needs signal. It needs those who remember not just in theory, but in practice, who live as if vibration is real, as if coherence matters, as if awakening isn't a solo mission, but a field-wide broadcast. Because when one person clears their signal, the whole grid feels it. So how do you become that signal? You begin by simplifying, by subtracting what doesn't belong. This isn't about becoming something new, it's about removing what was never yours to begin with. The programming, the trauma, the noise of a world built to keep you asleep. Because the body already knows how to resonate, the field already knows how to respond. What it needs is clarity. Start small, return to rhythm. Your breath is the original metronome, slow it down, and your field begins to stabilize. Speak less, but with more intention. Treat your words like tuning forks, each one shaping the vibration of the space around you. Be precise, be honest, be clean, and pay attention to the symbols, not just in your dreams, but in your waking life. Sacred geometry isn't ancient art, it's a language. The spiral, the triangle, the vesica piscis. These are formulas, not decorations. They align the eye, the brain, the nervous system. They remind the body how to remember. Spend time in silence. That's where the deep recalibration happens. The world has taught you to chase more stimulation, more input. But silence is not emptiness. It's the place where resonance refines. where the projector comes back into focus. And really listen to your environment. Sound is not neutral. Music, speech, ambient noise, it all affects the field. The ancients built entire chambers to amplify healing tones. You can do the same with your own voice. Chant, hum, speak words that carry weight, that lift, that stabilize. Most of all, feel. Feel fully. Emotion is not weakness. It's voltage. It's the charge that determines the shape of your field. Don't suppress it. Don't dramatize it. Use it. Let it guide you into coherence. Because once your field is coherent, you become a transmitter. Not of information, but of frequency. And that's when the ancient science stops being theory and starts being embodied. The truth is, you were never separate from this ancient science. It's not something you have to find, it's something you are. The same geometry found in pyramids lives in your bones. The same harmonics used in chants flow through your breath. The same energy once harnessed by high priests and sages pulses through your nervous system, always waiting for you to remember. That's the real unveiling. Not that the knowledge exists, but that you are the key. And now the timing isn't random. The reason this information is returning now through you, through dreams, through whispers in the quiet hours, because the frequency of the planet is shifting, the veil is thinning. The field is ripe for reactivation. And those who remember, they're not special. They're ready. Ready to carry the codes, ready to walk with ancient awareness in a modern world. Ready to use vibration not just as a concept, but as a compass, a tool, a way of being. So you have a choice. Continue to walk through this world as if you're just a body in a random universe, or begin to walk as a transmitter, conscious, intentional, connected to the gridwork of creation itself. Because this isn't about going backward into history. It's about pulling that history forward into your life, your choices, your voice, your frequency. You are the return of the science. You are the living reawakening. Now let me ask you something. What's the ancient truth that's always lived inside you even before you had words for it? Drop it in the comments. You're not alone in this remembering.